Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. Today I'm going to be talking about why China is going to be the world leader in a very short time period. The United States has been the world leader for, well, since at least World War II and maybe even before. Both economically and sort of the policeman of the world. Different places like Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, actually everywhere from Lebanon to Somalia to you name it. And as they're doing that, they're spending trillions and trillions of dollars in other countries. They go in, they blow it up, they change the government, then they have to go back in and fix everything. Where you see in places like Iraq, they obviously don't fix anything, but they're right and everybody else is wrong. And I think it's the mindset of the Americans that they are the moral compass for the rest of the world. While the rest of the world doesn't look at things the same way as a Westerner does. Even Canadians have sort of an attitude, and Brits have sort of an attitude that, well, we sort of know what's right and what's wrong. But after living in China for so many years, there's no cookie cutter recipe for what's right and what's wrong in this world. I look at China and I see it's a large country. It's a country with 1.35 billion people. They have a big army, but they spend about 1/5 the dollars as the American army does. But that's just on their army. Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever. That doesn't take into account the money they spend in different countries trying to overthrow governments, getting into wars. I read somewhere on the internet that they've been in wars 93% of the time, wars or conflicts of some sort. Where you look at China, sure they have a military, but they very seldom are in wars. They were in the Korean War, they were in the Vietnamese War in sort of a capacity of helping North Vietnam with arms, ammunition, whatever. But they really haven't been in a lot of conflicts, and they take that money and they put it into infrastructure in the country. Like, this is just a tier 3 city, and it's huge, it's amazing, it's populated, there's lots of people here. But the roads, the subways, the bridges, the overpasses, the parks, all of the infrastructure that goes on in China is done very quickly, very efficiently. In the Western world, this would take forever to get this stuff done, because where did the dollars come from? You see, in China, it's a different game. The Chinese government owns everything. See, I own an apartment in Nanning, but you can't own property in China. Everybody thinks, yes, I own it. It's a 70-year lease. And who's it leased from? You got it, the government. So the government owns all the land, owns everything. And when you take, say, a drive on an interstate, well, there's toll booths and you pay for that. Businesses in China pay taxes. Who to? The government, of course. Everybody knows taxes go to the government. So you've got a coal mine in northern Hubei province. Who owns that coal mine? The government. If there's a diamond mine, who owns that diamond mine? The government. The oil that comes out of the ground, who gets the money? The government. Sure, there's companies that operate those businesses, but who really owns it? The government. The government owns everything inside China. All of those tax dollars, all of those diamond dollars, all those gold dollars, all the oil dollars, all of the rent for properties or sale of properties, everything goes to the government, and they spend that on infrastructure. They don't spend it on wars in Afghanistan. They don't spend it on wars in Iraq. They don't go to Somalia. They don't tell the Lebanese people what to do. They believe in diplomacy rather than in telling people, do it this way or we'll blow you up, like Trump in North Korea. Well, the Chinese say, well, talk to the guy. There's lots of countries out there that have nuclear weapons, so the idea that another nuclear power right next door to China and the Americans are going to go in there, and no, they're not, because the Chinese will say, no, you can't do that. We won't allow that. If they're forced into a conflict, they will go into conflict, and that's been proven both in Vietnam and North Korea, or in the Korean War in the 50s. Things haven't changed that much since then in the ideology of the Chinese people. They know what they like and what they don't like, and being told by a foreign power what they can do and what they can't do, just like the Vietnamese didn't like it, just like the North Koreans don't like it, just like the Russians don't like it, or the Syrians and the Somalians and the Lebanese and the Afghanis and the Iraq people. All of these people really don't want Americans to come and say, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that. Boy, I'm just ranting today, aren't I? Holy smokes. Anyway, so the Americans take their trillions and trillions of dollars and they spend it in armed conflicts around the world, where the Chinese don't spend their trillions and trillions of dollars in armed conflicts around the world. What they do is they take those trillions and trillions of dollars and put it back into the country to make the country a better place. Then, when they have to do business in other countries, they have the money to invest in their corporations abroad. For instance, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. The Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program has a system that if you are an immigrant coming in and you spend a lot of money in a business, well, that's good. They'll let you into the country. But if you're in a major city or a major urban population area in Canada, you have to employ Canadian people. Well, a mega mall is being set up in Regina, Saskatchewan, and Regina is the capital city of Saskatchewan, so I guess that would be considered an urban setting, okay? And this mega mall is being set up inside the city limits of Regina by a big Chinese corporation. And what it is it's a mega mall set up to sell Chinese imported products. So this big mall's going in to sell Chinese products in Regina, Saskatchewan, and the government of Saskatchewan says, oh, this is far enough away from the center of the city, I think it's 11 kilometers from the center of the city, but it's still inside city limits, that it's considered rural. So it's inside the city limits of the capital city of Saskatchewan, and it's rural, so they don't have to hire Canadians. They can hire skilled workers from outside the country. How do you think they figured this one out? Well, because the money coming out of China going into Regina is going to create so many tax dollars for the city of Regina. They don't want to kerfuffle that puppy, so they just sidestep those rules and regulations because Chinese money talks. If China was spending all of their money like the Americans on wars and whatever, they wouldn't have the money to put into these mega structures abroad, buying oil sands in northern Alberta, to setting up infrastructure in places in Africa, to the Silk Road that they're setting up both by land and by sea through different countries, and just the infrastructure of dealing with high-speed trains to linking the country together. In America, the trains are going away. The roads are falling apart. Canada too, there used to be an elevator in every small community in Canada. Well, we don't have the money for that. That's yesterday's technology. Well, in China, they embrace that. They think that if everybody's connected, if the whole country is connected, and it's easy to get goods and people around the country, it makes the country a richer place, a better place to live. And I actually agree with that. Where, oh, we don't have enough money to keep this railway going. Well, the Chinese don't look at it that way. They look at it, well, if we don't, we're going backwards. And they always want to be going forward here. And that's another thing that's amazing here. They're building and building and building, tearing down old stuff and building new stuff. They build it better. In Canada, well, you very seldom, like I come from a small city in Saskatchewan, and you very seldom see anything new being built. They did build a mall area, but that's the first thing in Prince Albert that's really been built, other than just residential houses and stuff that people live in. So the infrastructure, the roads are terrible. The city of Prince Albert, say, has a budget that they have to abide by that budget because they don't have any more money. And if they have to build something, more infrastructure, they have to tax their people more. Here, the government pays for everything. The tax dollars come out of business and natural resources and user fees for roads and whatever. You see, in Canada, the tax dollars are spent out of the taxpayer's pocket. Well, the taxpayer really doesn't like it when you spend too many dollars. And if you're spending too many dollars and you're a voted in politician, well, you're not there for very long. So you get sort of a short-sighted sort of view on what the infrastructures should be in your city, province, country type thing. Because in Canada, they vote somebody in every 4 years-ish type thing. I think it's the same with city and provincial. But if the people don't like what you're doing, or you're spending too much money, or they don't like the way the infrastructure is going, or they don't like who you are, or their friend says you should vote this way or you should vote that way, well, you know, it's sort of up for grabs. In China, there is one government. There is not two governments. Don't ever kid yourself. This is a one government society over here. And the government has pulled 200 million people out of poverty just in the last little while. You know, so think about that. That's more than half of the population of the United States taken out of poverty because they don't spend their money foolishly. Chinese do not spend their money foolishly. I'm married to a Chinese. I know that, you know. So the thing is that if you're living in China and you're seeing things being built every day, it's because China doesn't spend its money on wars. It doesn't spend its money foolishly. It spends its money on building the country, building the lives of Chinese people better tomorrow than it is today, making sure their children have a better future than what they had. I sort of like it because it's a throwback to the 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s of Canada and the United States, where everybody wanted something better in the future. Now they're sort of on cruise control over there, and it's a bad scene. So anyway, I can rant forever on this video because, oh, and by the way, this is not a political video. This is just me ranting about what I think is right and wrong, and it is only my opinion. I'm sure everybody out there has their own opinion, but this is my opinion. If you like my video, as always, share, like, comment, subscribe. Show me the love. Thanks for watching. Bye now. I'm doing this video on November 11th, 2017, Remembrance Day in Canada anyway. I'm not sure whether it is in the States or anywhere else in the world, but being a Canadian, I figured it was my time to put my 2 cents worth in. No war. Peace out. Thanks for watching.